Hi, Colin Donahue here. In this talk, I'm going to re-emphasize the importance of the issue of preemptive attack. And what I was realizing, you know, again, it was just really hitting home today that I have heard absolutely nobody talk about this in, in the context of current events that actually are fundamentally concerning preemptive attack. Like that's actually what's going on a fundamental level, and yet nobody is identifying it as such. And I was thinking about how, you know, you might be familiar with some fictional stories wherein there's a monster or a demon or dragon or something like that, where the hero, in order to conquer that beast, needs to know the name of that monster, right? And even, in a more nonfiction, everyday life reality context, there's obviously power in diagnosing something correctly, right? Like if you have some health issue, if you're able to name it accurately, right, you then gain the power over that issue, right? So like, back in the day, sailors were getting scurvy, they didn't know what was going on, and then it was identified as a vitamin C deficiency, and so then it was able to be remedied, right? Okay, we need to take vitamin C. We need to, bring limes onto the ship for the sailors, for the passengers. So being able to pinpoint the issue is powerful, being able to pinpoint what is the actual problem, right? And oftentimes in my writing and previous audios, I've mentioned, I've emphasized before, well, this is just a form of preemptive attack, so this is whether we're talking about coerced medical intervention, right? The state telling you what preventative healthcare measure or device you need to take, otherwise there's going to be these penalties against you, whether economic or, travel restrictions and so forth, or, restrictions to entry to stores for basic necessities. Right, this being a preemptive attack, right? You may harm someone, right? There hasn't been any evidence that you've actually harmed anyone, but you may harm someone if you don't follow our medical protocol, and so we're going to coerce you to adopt it. Even though you haven't actually harmed anyone, in the name of safety, we're going to commit aggression against you first to possibly prevent you from harming someone else, right? Now, if you think this is legitimate, you really need to think that over, because it's not. To commit violence against someone because they may harm someone else is not a legitimate premise to have, operating in society. It's actually extremely dangerous, because, as should be obvious, the person that is assuming, that is theorizing that you may harm someone could be incorrect, right? And so in that case, all that's happening is you're being aggressed against, you're receiving violence, in the name of safety, but all that's actually happened is a net reduction in safety, right? And so this also brings up the issue of, appeal to authority, right? Who is someone else to claim, absolute omniscience on possible future scenarios, right? This is the whole pre-crime issue. That's just not legitimate, and it wouldn't be legitimate for you to do something like that to someone on the street, right? To walk up to someone and say, I think you may harm someone in the future, so I'm going to start committing aggression against you. I'm going to tell you you have to wear certain clothing and use certain medical devices or take certain injections. I'm going to tell you where, I'm going to restrict your travel. I'm going to tell you, basically start treating them like your livestock, all based on theory, right? All based on what you think they might do that could be harmful in the future, right? If someone came up to you on the street and started trying to micromanage your life because of what you may do in the future, you would think they were out of their mind, right? You would think, well, who the hell is this person? And why do they think it's correct to preemptively attack me because of what they think I might do in the future, right? It's not legitimate. It doesn't make society safer. It's actually making it worse. It's making it more dangerous, right? It's increasing the amount of violence. And potentially exponentially so, right? Because when it's just based on theory, there's no end to the theories that could come up from these so-called authority figures as far as, what might be harmful in the future. And so here's my new so-called solution to remedy this theoretical problem, right? Or this, this theoretical harm that you might commit. So, the issue of preemptive attack is 100% relevant to this whole lockdown mandate, these mandates that have been going on and increasingly so. It's also relevant to the restrictions on free speech that have been simultaneously occurring with this whole lockdown, where they've been deleting videos. Like I had one of mine deleted where I was talking about the true slippery slope of allowing aggression to occur via preemptive attack. How if you allow a little bit, it's very likely that they'll then increase and go further with it. And that was somehow a thought crime. I was somehow, committing a pre-crime there because somehow my thought, my speech was considered possibly dangerous to society. So they censored me, they deleted my audio, right? So committing aggression against me, right? Censoring me, limiting, restricting my free speech because I may be harming someone according to their view, their opinion, by speaking my opinion on the problem with preemptive attack. And this is the absurdity of it, is that when you allow authorities to define, what is potentially dangerous, well, don't be surprised when they say anything critiquing their agenda, whatever it is dangerous, right? Well, don't be surprised that when hate speech expands beyond racism to include speech against the powers that be, right? So, again, the whole medical intervention, coercing people to make medical choices against their will is a preemptive attack. Restricting people's free speech because it may possibly, in their opinion, cause some harm is another form of preemptive attack, right? Another example is red flag laws. Based on hearsay, someone says, oh, I think that person is potentially dangerous, and so they say they have some meeting behind closed doors that you're not even involved with, and then they all conclude like, yeah, I think he or she may be potentially harmful, so we're going to aggressively raid their home and take their firearms away from them, and if they resist or in any way, we have the right to then kill them. So just, maximum aggression, all in the form of a preemptive attack, right? This person hasn't actually harmed anyone, but they conclude, oh, we can kill them now because they may harm someone in the future, right? This is the preemptive attack to the extreme, where it's, oh, you're a potential threat? Well, we're just going to kill you outright, right? And this is, this should ring a bell if you have any like political history knowledge, right? This is what, tyrants and, communist leaders throughout history did. They just rounded up anyone they thought was a potential threat, right? And they just killed them, right? That's the ultimate preemptive attack. And lesser forms of it are equally dangerous because there is such a thing as this true slippery slope, like I said, where if you allow a subtle or lesser form of it, it's likely that they will then increase the level of severity, and it could possibly go all the way to that extreme level. It already has, where people have been killed when police have gone to people's houses to take their gun from them, even though they hadn't harmed anyone, and they resist having their gun taken, and so the police kill them, right? So they've been murdered in the name of preemptive attack, right? So for everyone out there that understands that restrictions on free speech, restrictions on making your own health choices, and restrictions on being able to defend yourself, that these are all problems, you need to realize that preemptive attack is fundamental to all of this. It's actually the foundation of it. And what I just find so odd is that I hear no one actually saying those words. It's almost like people are under a spell where they can't say the words. It's like that movie where the guy is under a spell, he can't say a lie. If he tries to say a lie, just like, gibberish comes out of his mouth or whatever. It's just physically impossible. And it seems like that's almost the case with this. I wonder why anytime I bring it up, I never hear anyone repeat the words like, oh, you're right, preemptive attack is a problem. Like, never. I can't recall one time. It's just really bizarre. But as far as the injustice continuing, it seems to me fundamental as to why that's happening, right? Because the key issue hasn't been identified and spoken, right? Like I was saying at the start of this audio, in order to conquer the demon, you need to know its name, right? But no one is naming it. And so they're just, talking around it. They might use the word tyranny, or they might use the word communism, which are accurate, but it's not pinpointing this particular form of tyranny and communism, this particular action, getting it down to the brass tacks of what's the specific action taking place. And that specific action is preemptive attack. So, yeah, try saying those words, preemptive attack. See if they can come out of your mouth, first of all. And then if they can, try forming a sentence like preemptive attack is bad. Preemptive attack is a form of violence. And then see if you can, put it in context, like controlling someone's body against their will in the name of safety is a form of preemptive attack. It would just be lovely to hear anyone else on the planet be able to verbalize this, because I think it would be very positive and productive if other people were talking about it. So, yeah, that's why I'm titling this Society's Blind Spot. And I hope there'll be some more acknowledgement that this is the fundamental problem, and this is a fundamentally immoral bunk premise that is not legitimate, that should not be accepted, and that it's what they continually are utilizing. It's just one form of preemptive attack after another. That's it's all these different forms of the same root. That's the root. And then we're just looking at all these branches growing from that same root. And, like Henry David Thoreau said, there's, 1,000 people hacking at the branches for one hacking at the root. So we need more than just one hacking at the root here. And, if you care about freedom, if you don't want your life to be constantly micromanaged and aggressed against by people taking preemptive attack against you and your friends and family and neighbors, then start calling out preemptive attack as illegitimate and immoral. All right, thanks for listening.